So it looks like you're wanting to buy a property over in the Arvada area, or maybe even find an investment property over in the Arvada area. And to be frank, I don't blame you. You got Waterworld, Colorado Railroad Museum, Old Town Arvada, and so many other things for all ages. Especially if you're a house hacker, you just want to make sure that it's a desirable area that people want to stay in and you can charge a premium for it. And yeah, long-term renters just make a lot of sense as far as like a 6-month lease, 12-month lease. You don't have to worry about vacancy and all that good stuff. And they furnish their own place, which is kind of nice on your budget. And for those people that are a little bit more savvy on the investor side, they know that the short-term rental market is where you can squeeze out as much as you can out of the property for the most cash flow. And yeah, I can agree with that. And I own a short-term rental myself, and it's making me a good amount of money. But for those of you who are looking to get into the short-term rental game, Arvada has a little bit more scrutiny tied to the neighborhood. So for those of you that want to start an Airbnb over there, you need a short-term rental license and a business license in order to operate that. Now, I kind of know what you might be thinking, like, oh no, a business license or a short-term rental license, there's so much that I have to do in order for this to even happen. If anything, I think this is a better use for your time, and it's a good place to invest for a short-term rental. When you look at areas that don't have any sort of laws regarding short-term rentals, I myself took that risk and invested in a property as a short-term rental with no red tape, no business license required, and no short-term rental license required. The drawback to that is that the neighborhoods or the city or the jurisdiction can always overturn that and force people to require these licenses, or worse. And like I said, it might not work out in your favor if things just go haywire and the jurisdiction becomes a little bit more strict, you need another business license, or they just outlaw it altogether. So going back to Arvada, having a short-term rental license and a business license in order for you to have a short-term rental, I find that to be not too much of a barrier to entry to start investing in Arvada. So let's go over the things you need in order for you to have a short-term rental over in the Arvada area. Let's start at the very basic rule of what is a short-term rental. So a short-term rental is defined as a portion of a dwelling or even the whole dwelling operated as a place to stay for their guests for less than 30 consecutive days. So for those of you who have 30-day leases, 60-day leases, 6-month or 1-year leases, this does not apply to you. These are completely fine in the Arvada rulebook. To expand on that a little bit more, and this is coming completely from the Arvada website, if you rent a home or a portion of the home for 1 to 29 consecutive days, you do need a short-term rental license. So let's talk about how many short-term rentals you can even have in Arvada. According to the website itself, you can have up to 3 per person. However, only 1 reservation is allowed per property at a time. So it looks like you can't rent out the basement and the main floor. That would be considered under one property. You can't rent out both of them at the same time at the same property. In addition to that, the short-term rental can only operate for 240 days out of the calendar year. At the end of the year, a short-term rental log will need to be completed by you, the owner, and submitted to the city of Arvada. Yeah, at first glance, it does seem kind of nuanced and a little bit more strict, but let's go into the short-term rental form as well. So according to the short-term rental annual log, you will need to have a license number already in process with the city of Arvada, and you need to put in the property address and the number of days it was rented for that year. The form itself, coming from the website, is pretty simple. Oddly simple. If you're used to a lot of forms from the government to be very elaborate or complex, this is not one of those. It's actually really easy to fill out. The thing is that if it's so simple and, are they going to be verifying this? I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to ask a couple of other people that have short-term rentals within the Arvada area. Let me know what you think and let me know if there's anything that I'm missing in regards to that. So when you really look at it, that 240 days out of the full year can only be operated as a short-term rental. That's about 65% occupancy for the year. It's not very good. I guess if you put up like a higher nightly rate, even if you do get that 65%, a lot of people might want to stay there and pay that extra premium in order for them to stay for that certain amount of time. However, there's some people out there that instead of operating all of the 240 days as a short-term rental, I guess they still do that, but the remaining 120 days, which is 4 more months, the remaining 4 more months can be operated as a, long-term rental. Just have a 4-month lease going into it. So I would highly suggest maybe having your short-term rental operating from March to about October or November, so you can really capitalize on those summer months, because people will want to travel during the summer and they're a little bit more in the mountains during the winter time. So looking at it, you got November, December, January, and February all operating as a long-term lease if you can get someone for the winter time, and then having March through October operated as a short-term rental. I find that to be probably the best way for you to maximize on your cash flow on that property. I will say that each short-term rental does have a couple of required items needed before you can actually apply for a permit for Arvada. These things are pretty commonplace. I would expect them even in like long-term rentals or anything like that. So if you have some guests over, you definitely need these 3 things for your permits. You definitely need a smoke detector, a carbon monoxide detector, and a fire extinguisher. Additionally, it requires you to have some sort of local contact. Let's say if you're out of state and you buy this short-term rental here in Arvada, you can have a property manager over there or some sort of boots on the ground in that local area in order for them to, or the guests to contact them, the boots on the ground, if anything goes awry. And this person that you leave as a contact for emergencies is also necessary in order for you to put in that application for the short-term rental in Arvada. And then there are these 2 different items that I thought was pretty interesting about this application of the permit. So you need to have a site plan that includes like the room or the portion of the house that is going to be used as a short-term rental if you're also going to be living in this place. So let's say if you're house hacking, this is definitely necessary for you to put in your application. Additionally, if you're house hacking and just renting out one of the rooms or the basement or something like that as a short-term rental, you need to have one off-street parking spot for that guest. And if the whole place is going to be operating as a short-term rental, you don't need to have that one specific off-street parking in your application, because the whole driveway is going to be part of that. It's going to be open because no one else is going to be living there, and it's there for your guests. So that's pretty much it. I don't think there's anything else that needs to be said explicitly. I mean, I would say just go over to the Arvada short-term rental laws, or just search that on Google and it's the very first link that pops up. Go straight to the .gov website and it'll go through everything that you need as far as the brochures, the application, the resources, and everything that you need in order to invest in the Arvada area. I figured if I'm doing all these house hacking videos, it's good to know these laws as well. So let me know what you think about this new kind of video, and if you found value in it, like, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. So if there's anything else that you guys are interested in as far as like getting up to date on news or jurisdictions for short-term rentals or even medium-term rentals, which I'm learning about as well, definitely go check out the 30-Day Stay book written by Ziona McIntyre and Sarah Weaver. Fantastic book, and it goes over the medium-term rentals, and maybe I'll make a video off of that in the near future. I appreciate you guys watching through the whole video. Make sure you like and subscribe and comment whatever you guys need, and I'll see you guys next week.